Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're still in our fifth cycle of 1997, covering a movie. And this episode, we're talking about Con Air, an absolute blast of a movie. Just incredible action. Just an absolute blast. Doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's completely like over the top, kind of ridiculous in all of the right ways. I saw this back when it came out in theaters in 1997. I think I probably saw it a couple more times on like HBO or VHS or DVD or something. And then most recently in theaters, I saw it like a few years ago. A local theater was doing a kind of like a, it wasn't a midnight screening because they ended up bumping their times up to 10 p.m. instead of midnight. But it was like a late night screening of this movie. It was a blast seeing it in theaters again. And I even bought at a little store I don't know where I put it, but I had like a little box and I put a little tiny stuffed rabbit in there. It was kind of like put the bunny back in the box kind of thing. If you ever see Con Air, if you know, you know kind of thing. But just an absolutely classic action film. I have some notes here about it. We're going to get through those notes, and then we'll get to the plot and everything else. Let me just pull my notes up here. There we go. So Con Air, first released June 6th, 1997. Had roughly a $75 million budget and ended up grossing $224 million. I actually need to bring the cast up because the cast is absolutely fantastic. It's a great ensemble cast. Let me actually just pull up our cast list here. Let me see here. Probably just going to go through the big ones here, but obviously you have Nicolas Cage, you have John Cusack, you have John Malkovich, you have Steve Buscemi. And his reveal in the movie is, because he's not in the movie like right away, he shows up about maybe like in the second act or so. But his reveal is great. You got Ving Rhames, Cole Meany is in this, and I think this is the first movie I saw him in, because obviously I knew him mostly from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine was going when this came out. So I think this was like the first time I saw him in a movie. You have Makaite Williamson. You also have Dave Chappelle is in this. MC Gady. You have Danny Trejo as well. So just a huge, great, just ensemble cast. Like, I think this is the third thing I saw Ving Rhames in, because I think initially I saw him a couple years earlier when I rented Pulp Fiction, and then he was in Mission Impossible, and then this. He's great in this as well. Absolutely love Ving Rhames, especially when he's playing like criminals or villains, kind of like similar to Pulp Fiction, basically. But yeah, the cast is just incredible, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Nicolas Cage for a moment. This is just like he was on an incredible role like during this like part of his career. Like he had just won an Oscar like 2 years before this for Leaving Las Vegas, or I guess it would have been '96, but the movie came out in '95. But he goes from winning an Academy Award for Leaving Las Vegas, and then going and doing three just huge iconic action films, basically like back to back to back, essentially. Like after winning the Academy Award, he obviously goes on and is in The Rock, which we just talked about on the previous cycle or the previous 1996 episode. I guess this is a Nicolas Cage double feature now. So we did The Rock, and we're now doing Con Air. But yeah, he went on from Leaving Las Vegas to doing, like I said, doing The Rock with Sean Connery. Then did Con Air. And literally like a few weeks after this, Face Off came out. So basically, you have Leaving Las Vegas and then the back-to-back-to-back action films with The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. Just an incredible run for him. I think this is definitely one of his most kind of iconic roles. Like, you can definitely tell nobody in the movie is taking it all too seriously. And the reveal when he gets off when he steps out onto the plane, he's just kind of hair is blowing, and he's just like, because because he's like one of the only people that like him and his friend are like probably two of the only people on that plane that are probably like that are not bad necessarily. I don't think they ever explained why his friend was in jail, but Cameron Poe, Nicolas Cage's character, goes to jail for like a self defense like manslaughter charge basically. We'll get to that more when we get to the plot. But yeah, just that scene where he's like his hair's blowing around, blowing around. The scene where he like wakes, like when they're at like the second they take off, they land, they take off, they land. Like when like the airfield in the desert, there's like just iconic images of like him from that. So just yeah, just incredible work from him. This movie is basically Die Hard. Like it's like it basically has a very similar formula to Die Hard. Like so, you have in Die Hard instead of it being a plane, it's an office building. So it gets taken over by terrorists. The plane in this movie gets taken over by criminals, and you have basically essentially a lone hero working through trying to like trying to like save the day essentially. So that's Nicolas Cage in this, and Bruce Willis, and obviously in Die Hard. You have a man on the outside in this movie. You have John Cusack in Die Hard. It's Reginald Val Johnson's character. So you have, and then they also even go one step further in this. They have John Cusack's character is kind of like overseeing this flight, while Cole Meady's character, who's DEA, is also involved, and that kind of parallels the relationship of the kind of the LAPD people in Die Hard 2 when the FBI shows up, and they're kind of at odds with each other and are just like constantly arguing. So you have that. You have basically, like I said, like so, like a lot of the plot points and kind of like action beats are very similar to Die Hard. And if you're going to copy a movie, Die Hard's a great movie to copy. Die Hard's amazing. So this is basically Die Hard on a plane, more or less. So I'm not going to hold that against it. I think that's actually, like I said, Die Hard's just amazing. This was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for the 1998 like ceremony. It was nominated for Best Original Song as well as Best Sound. It ended up losing both of those to Titanic. So I think "How Do I Live" by Trisha Yearwood was the song, plays at the beginning of the movie and then again at the end, and then Best Sound. So they again lost both to Titanic. Titanic was kind of a juggernaut at that particular Academy Awards. Kind of came out to mixed reviews. I think the movie now is definitely more of a cult classic. There was a Rotten Tomatoes quote I want to bring up about the. Let me see what it says here. Basically, like a quote from them says, quote, "Con Air won't win any awards for believability, and all involved seem cheerfully aware of it, making some of the blockbuster actions outings' biggest flaws fairly easy to forgive." And then Roger Ebert, I think he liked this and gave it 3 out of 4, saying it quote, "moved smoothly and with visual style and verbal wit." He did criticize, I think, Nicolas Cage's performance is kind of because he's like was said it was like a quote slow-witted like Elvis type. But yeah, like the flaws of the movie, like there's definitely some like logic flaws. Like if you were to think about it, like for example, they drop Chappelle's character out of like he gets stuck in the landing gear, and Ving Rhames' character, Diamond Dog, tells Poe, or Nicolas Cage's character, to get rid of it. So, like, why do you want bodies falling from the sky? That might, like, lead people to think that there's something going on. And then I think, like, later in the film, at the climax, like, the plane is going down over Las Vegas, and I think John Cusack's character is telling them to land at the airport. And they're like, hey, like, land at, I think it's, like, McCarran International Airport. And the pilot, his name is Swamp Thing in the movie, is like, well, we're definitely not gonna make the airport. I'm gonna land it on the Strip instead. And here's the thing: landing on the Las Vegas Strip is definitely more of an iconic action scene than just say landing at the airport. But if you think about it at all, like literally the airport is right next to the Strip. Or like I've been to Las Vegas. I think like how many times? I think I've maybe like flown through it once and went on a trip there one time. and literally like you could see like the Luxor from like the runway. So them saying that they don't have enough fuel to like land at the airport is kind of ridiculous because the airport is literally right there. But it just makes for a better scene when you land on the strip of the Las Vegas Strip. So the action, like it does it in such a way where it knows, like I said, it's not taking itself too seriously at all. So it's a lot of the kind of like weird, like if you think about it, the movie falls apart for multiple reasons, but they do such a good job of it. Just keep the action keeps moving. It has really great characters. So those it's easy to forgive those kind of like I don't want to say mistakes, but those like weird like logic things where if you think about it, the movie just kind of collapses. All right, and with that, we're now going to get into the close the notebook up here. We're going to get into the plot of this film. So, plot basically, in a nutshell, is Nicolas Cage is generally, I would say, innocent. Most of, basically, he probably shouldn't have gone to jail to begin with. Like that's one of the logic things where it's like it was clearly self defense, but then the judge is like, well, your military training makes you like have to like be held to a higher standard essentially. So we're going to put you in prison for like 7 or 8 years or whatever it was. But Nicolas Cage is an Army Ranger, so Cameron Poe, Army Ranger. I think he's coming back from a tour of duty. Um, Goes to a bar where his wife is working as like a server, and she's pregnant. They are like dancing, and some of the drunken kind of locals are like trying to talk to her, and kind of like are like definitely like harassing her. They're also harassing Nicholas's Cage's character. Eventually, they're getting ready to leave, and it's raining, and they get approached by like three of these like regulars, these locals, essentially. One of them pulls a knife out, and they start a fight. I think a couple of them just like run off, and then Nicolas Cage ends up breaking the nose of one of them, or doing the palm into the nose, which killed the guy. His lawyer's like, "Hey, you should plead this down," because even though like this is one of the flaws of the film is that like I think if this were to be like if there was video of this, it's obviously clearly self defense. But he pleads guilty, but then they still give him like 7 years anyway because the judge is like I said like a few seconds ago, he's essentially says you're a train like basically not a trained killer necessarily, but like your military training makes you like not the laws apply to you in a different way, so we're going to put you in jail for like 8 years. He's going to jail and make some friends in jail. I think it was like Odell is the guy's name. Sorry, excuse me. But they're like he's doing. There's montages of him doing like training and like reading like origami and learning how to speak Spanish and reading letters from his daughter and things like that. And then eventually he gets paroled. So I think he's supposed to be in there for like 10 years and gets paroled after like 7 or something. But he gets paroled and they're getting ready to load him onto this plane. However, it's a plane that is also carrying some very dangerous criminals. So it's carrying Cyrus the Virus, who's like the main criminal. It's carrying Diamond Dog. It's carrying, I think it's like Billy Bedlam. Johnny 23, played by Danny Trejo's on this plane. So is a character named Pinball, played by Dave Chappelle. And the guards are like all like very arrogant about what's going on. But then Pinball pulls something out of his throat. Looks like it's like a little plastic bag, and there's like some lighter fluid and a match in there. He sprays the lighter fluid on a guy and like lights a guy on fire, which causes a distraction, which allows the convicts to get the upper hand and essentially take over the plane. And then Cyrus the Virus is like, "Welcome to Con Air," says the name of the movie, which is kind of funny. But while this is going on, or before this happens, the DEA is trying to get some information. So Duncan Malloy is the DEA agent, and his guy is going on the plane with a gun. John Cusack is like, "No guns on the plane," so they take the gun away from him. And then he inspects him getting on the plane, or Duncan, and he gives the gun back. So getting a gun on the plane is also like not great, even though the guards, like I said, there's like no guns on the plane, but now there is a gun on the plane. And of course, it goes terribly wrong for this DEA agent, who ends up getting killed. But they take the plane and they're flying the plane to Carson City to do another prison transfer. A bunch of prisoners are supposed to get off, but I think like Chappelle's character noticed he's like, well, this guy is so and so, this guy's so and so, and this guy's so and so, so we're like short now, so they have to have volunteers get off the plane instead, and they take the place of the guards. So the transfer is going like smoothly, but Cameron takes the DEA guy's tape recorder and puts it in the guy's coat. So they get the tape recorder. The law enforcement now has that, but they also have to dump the transponder from the plane. So Swamp Thing, a new character that gets on at this airport, pops the transponder off. They put a battery in. They give it to Pinball, who brings it to a hangar and puts it in another plane. He gets distracted talking to a lady in there. She's like, "Hey, you shouldn't be in here." And then they take off. Because one part of the movie later is they're following the transponder, but they're following it. It's in another plane now, essentially. So it leads kind of the DEA people like a wild goose chase later in the film. But they're back in the air, and they're talking about landing at, I think it's like Lerner Airfield, which is a more, it's not abandoned because people are at it, but it's a run down airfield where they're going to transfer planes because they actually take on some more crew. Like a cartel guy, I forget the guy's name. They take him on Swamp Thing, but they're supposed to land at this other airfield and then just fly off from there and kind of go wherever. But they're supposed to get there in a certain amount of time. They notice that the landing gear isn't working, so Poe and Diamond Dog go into the kind of like the underneath the plane, and they see Pinball is like has been crushed by the landing gear. He's dead. So this is where Poe writes a message to I think it's Larkin, is John Cusack's character. Writes a note to him about what's going on, and then they drop the body out of the sky, and it like lands on a car. But then Larkin gets called by the police, and then he's like, "Hey, this body's got your name all over it." So then now they know that they have somebody on the inside in the plane that's like working against the kind of the villains essentially. Sorry, excuse me. So, but at the other transfer, they also take on Garland Green, who is Steve Buscemi's character. He's got a great reveal. He's kind of got like a Hannibal Lecter style mask, and he has these kind of crazy insights about like things. He's like, oh, insanity is this, and he's like later in the movie, he's like, explain irony. He's like a bunch of idiots dancing on a plane to a song made famous by a band that died in a plane crash because they're dancing to "Sweet Home Alabama" by Leonard Skinner. He's got some great scenes. There's the scene at the pool with like, the little like girl and they're having like a tea party, and it's kind of very tense because you think he's going to kill this kid, and he doesn't because you see the kid waving to him as like the plane like leaves. But they end up getting to the other airfield. Um, the DEA is sending attack helicopters after the transponder, like I said earlier. And now it's another like it's just like a tourist kind of like Grand Canyon kind of tour plane that they're following. But Larkin steals Malloy's car and drives it to the airfield, where this is where we actually meet the Larkin and Poe meet up for the first time. They eventually do see, and basically the whole thing about Lerner Airfield was written on Pinball's shirt when he got dropped out of the plane. But Johnny 23 spots the convoy, the law enforcement coming, and this is one of the better actions of the film. Is they create like an ambush for they're like Cyrus is laying it out. He's like, all right, we're gonna blow up the first car and the car in the front and the car in the back, and which will trap the other two cars, and then we'll just like have them in like a area where he can just like shoot at them. So it's a huge shootout. The cartel guy that Cyrus is like essentially trying to get a plane from ends up betraying them, but his plane like crashes like before it takes off, and it's kind of funny because he's trying to beg. He's like, hey man, like don't like talking to Cyrus, and he's like has this line where he's like sigh, like saying Cyrus, he's like sigh, and then Cyrus is like Renora and throws a cigarette at the guy because he's covered in gas now, and the guy like burns up. But they get back on the plane that they had flown in on, which is like has been damaged by the DEA helicopters have come over as well and are blasting at it. And then this is kind of like the part where like, there's like a subplot where like basically like Poe's friend needs a syringe for some insulin, which they give him. But eventually, they do find out that Poe is kind of the traitor because they found Billy Bedlam dead in the thing, and that's the whole putting the money back in the box thing. He's like, I knew you was a punk or whatever he says to him before they fight in the belly of the plane. It's weird because like they're both kind of like crouched over and they're like lurching at each other like that. But that was earlier in the film. Billy Bellum gets like impaled on like a pipe. But they're now kind of getting shot at by the DEA. I think there's like a Spartacus kind of thing where it's like I'm the one that like his friend is like I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that did that. And he gets shot by Cyrus. He ends up being okay though. Poe's friend. And then there's a great line where like it's like Poe goes into like Superman mode essentially. Like he's like, and his friend's like, "What are you doing?" And Nicolas Cage's character is just like showing you that God exists. I can't really do the accent. It's like he's like putting the bonnet, showing you that God exists or whatever. Then he like runs through the plane, like starts punching at guys. He gets shot in the arm. It doesn't phase him. Gets into the cockpit, and that's when they kind of like decide to land the plane on the Las Vegas Strip. And then there's like one final chase on like a fire truck where Cyrus and I think Swamp Thing are driving it, and Poe uses like stabs him with a what's it like a fire hook or whatever that is, and it ends up crashing, and then he ends up, of course, reuniting with his wife and daughter, and the song from the beginning of the movie plays again. So essentially, like I said earlier, it's basically Die Hard on a plane, but it's just an incredible fun ride. I highly recommend it. Um, Absolute classic if you love Nicolas Cage movies. And like I said, this came out during a time of his career where he was basically just on a roll. Like you said, did Leaving Las Vegas, then did The Rock, then did this, and then followed it up with Face Off. Like three of the most iconic action movies of the decade, like within like a year of each other, basically. Which is kind of nuts. I don't know if that's how often that actually happens, but anyway, that is going to do it for this video. We'll be back again in a few days with a video game from 1997 before jumping back into 1998 and the rest of the decade, and then starting over again with 1990. But again, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.